Welcome to the Digital Dreaming Off the Ground podcast. It is your host, Asif Ali, joined today by my co-host from the most, Cortez Branch Jr. And we are here today to preview NFL Week 17 action and to talk about tonight's Thursday night matchup of the Cleveland Browns versus the Cleveland Browns versus the New York Jets, as well as the 49ers hopeful bounce back game against the Commanders. So just want to recap real quick before we get into that. Obviously, yesterday's guest, Booby Dixon, talked about the Niners struggles. Today, Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan basically took the podium for the press conference and talked about, some of the struggles that they had also noticed, and some of the areas of improvement. Brock basically took full accountability for the 4 interception game, obviously the worst of his career. Kyle, when asked about running the 2 running back set, basically stated that, yeah, of course you want to try that, but ultimately, you only can try what the defense gives you, right? So credit to Baltimore as well, for kind of scheming that up, as discussed with Booby yesterday. And one more item that, was discussed yesterday with Booby was also kind of the multiple backs and kind of Jordan Mason and Eli Mitchell and kind of how they could leverage Jordan. And a lot of Niners fans do feel that Jordan Mason should be leveraged a lot more because he could take a lot of the pressure off C-back. So before we kind of preview, I just want to get your thoughts, Cortez, about kind of, some of those issues Niners are facing on Monday night. And me having been there, I had to see it firsthand and kind
I
of,
was gonna
what else.
say you were there.
Yes, I was.
Well, I'll start this off. As you're well aware of, we talked about this, and we said the more physical team was going to win that game,
Correct. We did.
and the more physical team won the game. And I think that's a combination of reasons why. Number one, Brock Purdy is a second-year quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Second-year quarterback, he's going to have a bad game here and there. If a guy who's been in the league for a lot longer than him, like Patrick Mahomes, can have a bad week, Brock Purdy can have a bad week too. But here's the
Absolutely.
thing. The 49ers have all but locked up the number one seed.
Correct.
They're not afraid of Dallas. They're not afraid of Philadelphia. And I think that Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens going into San Francisco had a lot more to lose if they lost that game than San Francisco did.
That's correct.
And being an athlete, being a player myself, I can tell you that there are some games that will sneak up on you because you don't have as much to lose as the team you're playing. And I'm not taking nothing away from Lamar Jackson and those Baltimore Ravens, but I'm also not condemning the San Francisco 49ers for being human beings. They've been playing at an excellent level for the entire season. They just had a bad week, and that's literally all that it is. This is not overreaction Thursday for me. It's they had a bad week. And I think that if you noticed, Christian McCaffrey didn't look all that healthy. He looked good, but he didn't look all that healthy. I think, a couple other players, I'm not going to say their names out because I don't want to jinx them, because they are my NFC pick. My NFC pick for the Super Bowl is the San Francisco 49ers.
Right.
I think I've been saying that all year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My AFC pick is a little bit different. It's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But my NFC pick is the San Francisco 49ers. And I just think that they had a bad week. That's all I think that happened. I think they just had a bad week. I think that Baltimore had a good week. I think that Baltimore played a very efficient football game. I think that Lamar Jackson has proved that he is the quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens and that there shouldn't be any controversy on whether he should or shouldn't be. And I think that that's really all it came down to. You have a veteran coach who's been to the Super Bowl against this team, playing against this team again under a new regime, under a new set of players, with his veteran leadership that is on the Raiders to this. I mean, not the Raiders, to the Ravens, and just going in there with a mindset of, I'm not going to let these guys beat me. I'm not going to let them, roll us over. and I'm not going to let them talk about us. So I think that a whirlwind combination of things, and I'm not going to call it desperation because what do the Ravens actually have to be desperate about, other than the fact that there are a few teams in their league in the AFC that people think are head and shoulders above them, and they just want to prove that that's not the case.
Yep.
And that's really all that I think happened. I don't, like I said, if you guys are overreacting about this, I think you guys take a chill pill. I think that San Francisco's going to be just fine. I think that if this is the Super Bowl that we're going to see, I think we're going to get a nice rematch. And once again, I think that it's going to go down to the last possession of the game. But
Yep.
the Super Bowl is a long way away. Literally, it's at least 5 weeks away. You know, the regular season's got 2 more weeks left in it. And who knows what can happen from here to there. Let's get there first.
100%. No, I agree with everything you said. And, kind of with what Booby was bringing up yesterday, I think ultimately, it's really just going to come down to kind of, how much better they can bounce back. Now let's kind of get into that because now we're in week 17 and that's what we're talking about today. The 49ers going against Commanders, myself and Booby basically said we expect the Niners to like blow out. I'm sorry, we expect the Niners to blow out the Commanders. Now, obviously, there are some injuries. Trent Williams with the groin, but he was limited in practice, so that's good. Positive sign. Debo Samuel. Eric Armstead has been in and out this whole season. He's been missing a bunch of games, and I think his presence was missed. I want to say at least both the run and pass stop game to contain Lamar Jackson, up front. And I think now the Niners have signed Sebastian Joseph Day. Essentially, some of the Niner fans faithful wanted to get some more offensive linemen based on how well Baltimore's pass rush was. But I do think that there's something to be said about, ultimately, kind of how Brock and how Kyle can adjust their game plan and their game schemes now that they've seen Baltimore once. And, they've been able to kind of, like you said, Cortez, how they've been able to kind of, get punched in the mouth, get rocked a little bit and have their worst game of the year. Better to have it now than to have it in the postseason, right?
If I'm gonna go against you or anyone else, and I think that this game is more about them winning than it is about us losing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Am I going to throw my best ammunition at you in a throwaway game?
No way.
Now, everyone that is watching, including some former athletes, are going to disagree with me.
Mm-hmm.
How many of those former athletes is a coach?
Right.
I have coached teams from obscurity to championship relevancy, and from the top of the highest league in the world to the lowest Pee Wee league and even flag football. I will tell you that if I throw all of my weapons at you, and I might have to see you in my end game, then you're gonna have to you're scouting me in a way that I'm not gonna be able to scout you in because I gave you everything that I had. Now, if the 49ers, now what I did notice is the 49ers tried out a lot of new things that they haven't done all season last week. I noticed that the 49ers didn't use a lot of two-back set.
Correct.
I noticed that the 49ers spared Kittle.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't see a lot of throwing over the middle into traffic, did you?
Well, you did, but then after the fourth pick, and then they try to get away from that. So,
You know, I would like to think that the 49ers were, I want to say they were probably using about 70% of the playbook.
right.
And I would want to say that out of that 70%, they probably used 40% of the plays they had lined up.
Yeah.
Um, the way they were moving around, the way they were setting up, it just didn't look like, I could be wrong. I'm not in the 49ers locker room. And, Booby's not in that locker room anymore. You're not in that locker room. My dad's not in that locker room anymore. He hasn't been in a very long time. He hasn't been in a very long time. But I don't think that what a team does is go out and practice. You get that first team offense, and for the first couple of days, we work on our scheme for the game.
Mm-hmm.
we get down and we get ready, especially on a short week. We get ready and we practice that first 10 plays that we have for the drive. We
Right.
know the rest of the plays, but those 10 we practice to get into the end zone with 10 plays.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually how it goes. Do we make room for, like, okay, I'm going to change the name of this play only because the opposition is watching me and I do have games to play with this play call? But
No.
there is a play call in our playbook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And let's just call it Gengar 2-4, since my number is obvious.
Mm-hmm.
That is not anything close to what the play is called,
Right.
but we're going to call it Gengar 2-4. It is a check play.
Right.
That means that we saw something in the defense and we check out of whatever play, and the personnel reorganizes itself and audibles to a run
Mm-hmm.
using me, not any other running back, me.
Right.
So other running backs have different calls. But if you call Gengar 24, I'm going to get the ball. Now, whether we check 24A, B, C, D, E, or I'm saying that so I don't give away our play calls. But
Right.
if we check A, B, C, D, or E, I'm either going to be running to the inside, the outside, left, off the tackle, through the center, or everybody's pulling right, and we're just going to see what we can get from that, because that's what we're going to see. What I did see was a lot of check plays.
Mm-hmm.
I did see a lot of clock being wound down because Shanahan didn't like the play, or Purdy didn't like the play.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't blame him, because I'm not going to give you our bread and butter if we're not set up for that.
100%.
And the people are going to say, I think you're wrong. You can tell me you think you're wrong. I'm wrong all day. But I think the guys that played this game will know that sometimes sometimes you ain't winning today.
Yeah.
Any given Sunday is a thing, but sometimes you realize halfway through the first quarter, there's no way we're winning this game. And I'm going to go
Yeah.
out there and I'm going to play my heart out and I'm going to give it my best. Still not going to win today.
That's basically it. No, you nailed it, bro. Ultimately, I'm looking at it from that perspective. Like you said, from the player's perspective, I listen to Fred Warren's podcast. I listen to George Kittle, Brock Purdy. I listen to the coaches, Kyle Shanahan, to kind of get their perspectives on it. And you pretty much nailed it. I mean, I think the game got away. I want to say, but with that said, with 3 picks in the second quarter, Christian McCaffrey rips off that touchdown run, and then it's a 13-12 game with the 3 interceptions.
That's my
So
point. That's
right,
my
and so
point.
right, and so I think this game proved, like you said, Kyle didn't want to. I think some people were also mentioning Kyle didn't want to open up the playbook and show all the runs to Baltimore in the event that they do have to rematch at some point. Wink, wink, Super Bowl. But essentially, this is, I think, ultimately the Niners, like Dante Whitner, former Super Bowl runner-up with the 2012 Niners, they're the same thing, that this loss is a blessing in disguise, because it will help the Niners to kind of tighten up their defensive coverage, kind of think about different ways that that they can attack the opposing defenses, and also kind of when opposing teams take away that middle, they can kind of Kyle Shanahan can obviously open up the playbook a little bit, to kind of get Ayuk and Kittle and Debo, a little bit more involved, to your point. They're not saying that they weren't involved already. Kittle was leading receiver on Monday. However, I think, there were some route combinations where I thought, had Kittle basically, ran, for example, the first interception, which was basically going to Debo, but then, Kittle was I think Kittle was supposed to break and then he was supposed to go to the other side, like Booby mentioned.
That's what it
Then I
looked
get
like.
Debo, right?
It
And
looked
then
like Debo was supposed to break and go to the other
and
side.
then, and then basically Brock Sales at Kyle Hamilton, an all-pro safety, was just sitting right there at the goal line. Ultimately, had Brock basically given, had Brock thrown it in a tighter window, like right into Debo's chest, and the Debo would have had a chance to catch that ball. Maybe it was good because he did slow down in his route, and so I think, like you said, I mean, it's literally just miscues. It was Baltimore's day. They needed that win,
There are once in a lifetime plays
100%.
that defense will make.
Right.
There are once in a lifetime plays that offense will make.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes those once in a lifetime plays will make or break an entire game for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
Does anybody remember who David Tyree is?
I hope you do. I'm actually connected
Yeah,
with David on LinkedIn.
yeah.
We're actually professional acquaintances. So
I know who David Tyree is.
I know you know who Dave Tyree is. I mean, everyone who watches football should know who he is. And if you don't, I mean, Google Super Bowl 42 if you have any
Yeah.
questions about who he is. So,
So I not that David Tyree wasn't an excellent receiver, because I think that he was. I think
mm,
that I think
mhm,
that I think that he got elevated a lot after that catch. And
correct.
I
No,
think that that's the
yeah,
most famous catch in his entire career.
absolutely. And one of the greatest plays in Super Bowl history. He was a solid receiver, but I don't think he was a great receiver. I think he was a great special teamer, like yours truly. But ultimately, I think that's kind of how he made it for his bread and butter, special teams, and he basically got his number called, and he stepped up in the biggest moment. But like you said, it's a once in a lifetime play. Do I expect him to make that catch 10 out of 10 times? No, I think it was the 1 out of 10 time that he had to make that catch. He made the catch. I mean,
Only
I
time
think
he was ever required to make the catch, he made it.
absolutely, and I think that's
And
been.
he stepped
Mhm,
up and made the play. I'm going to tell you that I think that a lot of miscues that did happen on Sunday
mhm,
when it comes to San Francisco
mhm.
won't happen again.
I agree.
And I think that if they do happen to meet in the Super Bowl, that it'll be a much different game with much different stakes.
Hmm.
Like I said, San Francisco's all but wrapped up the number one seed
Correct.
and home field advantage throughout the playoffs.
Correct.
I don't think that it was as big a deal to them as the media is making it out to be.
100%.
And I, from the body language that was given from the coaches and the players that was interviewed, I'm going to say they've already left it in the past.
Yep, that's exactly what Kyle Shanahan said today on his post game conference. Or sorry, this is his Week 17 kind of presser. Ahead of the Commanders game on Sunday. They asked one of the reporters asked him, what did you tell Brock, or kind of how has Brock kind of been handling this, and kind of what does Brock need to do to improve? He just basically said Brock needs to move on. That's it. Like you just need to move on, and looks like
Brock's a
all the teams.
second year quarterback living his life.
Yep,
That's it.
that's it.
Second
And the
year quarterback living his life, learns from his mistakes.
And I think the team will grow from this as a whole. So I'm excited for this week against the Commanders. My prediction for the Commanders: Chase Young revenge game. Even with the injuries, Niners should dominate. Jacoby Brissett's a great quarterback,
Yeah,
but I
that
mean
game will they'll dominate. They'll dominate the Commanders. I will say this of teams that are not playing this week,
mhm.
which is the Chicago Bears.
No, the Bears are playing
Who are they playing?
the Falcons.
Oh yeah, it's a throwaway game. Here's what I'll say. I'm
Mhm.
glad that they're playing. I'm glad that they're playing. This even makes it even more valid then. Chicago Bears Nation and fans.
Mhm.
From what I saw last night in a bowl game for USC, I saw stellar athletics from both sides. But what stuck out to me was the fact that a quarterback that hasn't played all year went out there and replicated Caleb Williams' best game that he had all season in a bowl game, which is the biggest game that those kids have played in to this point. Regardless of what people want to believe, if you're out there on that field and it's a bowl game, you want to win that game.
Right.
Everybody wants to lift the trophy at the end of their football season. I don't care if it's not the football championship trophy for whatever league you're in. Everybody wants to lift a trophy at the end of the season. Everyone does. You don't play the game to not lift the trophy at the end of the season. And if you're invited to a nationally televised bowl game, you're going to play your best.
Mhm.
This wasn't a throwaway game. This wasn't a throwaway game at all. Shout out to Zion and Zach Branch, the twins at USC. I think everybody can understand why I'm shouting out Zion and Zach Branch. Those little guys are fantastic and they are the future.
Yeah.
You guys are going to be dealing with branches for the rest of your lives. when it comes to the sport of football because our family is churning out players left and right from all sides of the family.
Yes,
I can
sir.
move on from that. That's a shameless self promotion of my family. But this game that we saw did not make me want to say, "Oh, he's holding out because the Bears are going to draft him." No, I don't believe the Bears are going to move on from Justin Fields. I believe that what they're going to do is the same thing the Bears always do, and that's use their position to get more from other teams, which means that the Bears will have to pay out less money and they have more money coming in. How do you know that? Because if I'm the Chicago Bears and I have Justin Fields and he's been proven to be even half as competent as what people would like to give him, I will keep him. The reason I know this is because these are the same Bears that rode the coattails of a defense to go to the Super Bowl when there were other quarterbacks available in the draft before and after Rex Grossman. Did they do anything other than trade for a quarterback who was established in the
Nope.
last 30 years?
Nope.
No, they didn't. We're talking about Jim McMahon gets injured. Who steps in? Doug Flutie. Who stepped in after that? Harbaugh. And I can run down this list of irrelevant quarterbacks. Look, guys, I loved watching you all play, but we're talking about top tier guys here, guys that are making it into the Hall of Fame, and guys that change things. This is no shade against any of those guys that we watched because we had fun doing it. You know, being a Chicagoan, we had a great time. But what I'm going to say is none of those guys had anywhere near the skill level, and this includes Trubisky, this includes Grossman, even though you made it to a Super Bowl. This includes one of my favorite players of all time, Cordell Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
None of you guys were better than Justin Fields. Justin Fields is a young third-year quarterback who's really a 1.5-year quarterback. This year he spent half the season injured and with a team that they had no identity. The year before that he was injured, and then the year before that he didn't even play but what 3 games after Trubisky got benched.
Mm-hmm.
And Trubisky got benched for failing. And then you want to talk about coaching. Matt Nagy was his coach. Matt Nagy is ruining the offense in Kansas City. Ruining it. Andy Reid, please go back to calling all the plays and telling Matt Nagy to take a seat. And that's not because I like Kansas City, because I absolutely do not like Kansas City Chiefs. But I would much rather see a team that doesn't look like the B version or the C version of who they are playing against top tier teams on primetime every week than what we got last weekend. So the Bears are going to draft probably some offensive lineman, a defensive player, and most likely a receiver.
Yeah. No, I think that's very perfectly
If,
reasonable. And
if
actually,
wouldn't you?
I would. And I mean, that's even now I should prioritize offensive linemen too in this offensive draft instead of running backs. But I was going to say for the Chiefs, one thing that was glaring, I agree with you that Andy Reid should take over play calling. But honestly, I think what we're seeing is a lack of accountability, as Travis Kelce had stated, because of Eric Bieniemy not being there. I mean,
Yes.
and I think, they underestimated how important Eric Bieniemy was to that offense. And so you're seeing now how Commanders won over the Giants last week. Yeah, I mean they've had issues, and some players don't like him in Washington, but that's because Eric Bieniemy demands excellence. I had his teammate Tremaine Mack, who's also a head coach now for high school, basically said the same thing. When they're both Pro Bowl players back in Cincinnati, Tremaine Mack and Eric Bieniemy, we used to share kickoff return duties. He said and asked him, why is Eric Bieniemy getting head coaching consideration? Jermaine said because Eric demands excellence. That's
What did
pretty
the
much
Bears lose when they hired Tressman?
it. Oh my God.
They lost. They lost 2 things.
Mm-hmm.
They lost Lovie Smith,
Mm-hmm.
who didn't have a losing season,
Mm-hmm.
and they lost Ron Rivera.
Correct.
Two big reasons why the Bears had the most unstoppable defense during the defensive era of football.
Correct.
The Steelers had an unstoppable defense. The Ravens had an unstoppable defense. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers had an unstoppable defense. We're talking about one of the best eras that football ever had. And then you had the Chicago Bears with the best of all of those teams. And what happened when they lost those two guys? They fell in every defensive stat.
Mm-hmm.
They fell in every defensive stat. And we haven't had a coach that is posting a winning record since.
Correct. Well, you did have Nagy for that 1 year when they
Nagy
made
had 1 year. He had 1 year.
and that's
And
it.
I think Trestman had 1 year with Cutler.
Yeah. And I don't even know if it was a winning season. I think it was just like
They lost to the Green Bay Packers in the NFC title game, I believe.
no, that wasn't
No,
Tressler. No. So that was Lovey. That was
that
Lovey.
was
So
Lovey. Okay, that was
yeah,
Lovey. He got fired after losing to the Packers.
yeah.
That 10-6 season,
He lost to the Pack. You lose to the NFC
which
Championship game.
is crazy because if
Right.
you go back and watch that play,
Mm-hmm.
that was offensive pass interference. They never should have gave that to the Packers.
It is what it is. I mean, at this point,
Yeah,
but I think
it's been over a decade, right?
right. And I mean, I think, to your point, I think that's kind of the issue. When you get rid of the authority, you lose that culture. I think I was kind of, Harbaugh, kind of bringing that into the Niners, like Booby said yesterday. You've seen what he's done at Michigan, right?
Speaking of Harbaugh,
yeah. And I mean, Michigan obviously looking great. I mean, they're going to be playing tomorrow.
who do you think the favorite is to replace this? Look, man. I don't have any aspirations on ever making it into training camp again in Chicago. I
Mhm.
will always be a fan, but I highly doubt that at my age I'll ever make it back into training camp in Chicago. So I can say this without any fear, and I highly doubt that our coaches are going to give this guy a shot at anything.
Mhm.
Listen, Matt Eberflus is a clown as a coach, and the fact of the matter is his silence speaks way more than anything that he's done. His silence on the situation. And I think that Harbaugh is in a good spot to come back into the NFL to play for a team or to coach a team that he played for a decade.
I mean, that's a very, very interesting. Um,
Michigan's not that far from Chicago.
from Michigan, yeah. I mean, it's but his name's also floating out for LA for the Chargers gig, because Staley's out.
He's got choices.
Yeah, he's gonna have a lot of teams lining up. So I mean, he's gonna make it, and
He
and
made it to the
enjoy.
Super Bowl, man.
He did. When Booby Dixon was a member of that Super Bowl team. So
Two
I think
guys, two guys have a shot at coming back to the NFL. That's Lovie Smith, and that's Jim Harbaugh.
correct.
I
Yeah, and I
think that Lovey, if he wants to coach, Lovey will be able to come back to the NFL next season. And I
mhm.
think that Harbaugh will be back in the NFL next season. I don't think that's a stretch.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, so and it's funny. I was watching Tony Dungy's documentary, being the first African American head coach to win a Super Bowl. He talked about Lovey making the Super Bowl back in 2007. With that Bears team, and it was phenomenal for him and Lovey, and how that kind of bred to more African American head coaches like Mike Tomlin, who ended up becoming the second head Super Bowl head winning head coach, and at that time the youngest head coach to ever win Super Bowl. And so I think Eric Bieniemy deserves a shot too somewhere. I don't know where it's going to be, and I don't know if he's going to get it next season, but he's definitely worthy. But I agree with you. I think Lovey and Jim are prime candidates now. In the interest
Speaking
of
of black coaches, are the Raiders keeping theirs?
time, man, we talked
They've
about David.
had a culture shift in there. And the Raiders, if this was week 3, we might be talking about the Raiders making a playoff push.
Yeah, the reason why you heard me sigh was because they should. But you saw what happened when Rich Bisaccia got them to a playoff berth, and they ended up going to get Josh McDaniels. I would hope that they give Antonio at least one more season just to kind of see what he's built
What do
upon.
they have to lose?
And that the team they responded to Pierce, man. They respond to Coach Pierce and Max Crosby and these guys. Then to your point, they have nothing to lose. So I hope that they do give him another year. I'm not sure if they will, but I really hope they do. And actually, let's get through some of these picks.
I was gonna say, yeah. So you guys, this is gonna be a shorter show than what you're used to. That gives you guys an opportunity to check in on us after the week is over and come back.
Yeah,
So I was gonna ask,
exactly.
who do you got in 10 minutes?
Let's see who we got. So let's go through the Jets and Browns. The Jets are just playing without anything. So, Joe Flacco, like we talked about, you actually mentioned this in our last podcast. Joe Flacco having, a career resurgence and all the talking, it's the same thing. So, and it's at Cleveland. So, and that defense, Miles Garrett, defensive player of the year. I don't see any reason why the Browns won't win this game.
What's one of
So,
the main reasons why at 36 I look so good when I play?
you tell me.
Because I don't play as much as I used to play. I don't play as many games as I used to play. I don't practice as much as I used to practice. I'm still in the gym. I'm still working out, but the wear and tear and the physical wear and tear of getting hit every day is not
Yeah,
there. It's not there anymore. I don't have to get hit every day anymore. And now when I go to practice, now when I go to games, and now when if a guy thumps me too hard, the coach is gonna say something about it. Hey man, we need him for the game, bro. What are you doing? Like, yeah, he's 36, but he's better than you 26-year-old dudes. Then we're not gonna have him beat him up because his bones are older.
yeah,
That's what's going on with Flacco. Just like Tom Brady, just like Brett. Remember Brett Favre, the Chronicles of Brett Favre, when he was
yeah.
skipping every training camp every year towards the end, last 5 years of his career, and then Brady waited until the 2 weeks before the season to like sign a contract and come back. Yeah, that's what's happening here. Age is a factor. Flacco sat out the entire year, probably been on vacation for most of it, enjoying his money and family and his kids, staying in shape. And now he's ready to unleash freshness when everybody else has got boo-boos. And he
Yeah,
does it. You know,
100%.
I'm gonna say that Flacco carries those Browns way farther than the Jets are gonna go before they run out of fuel. They ain't no Concords. I'll tell you that right now. So they're not going that far, and I think that Flacco's going to show out on Thursday Night Football tonight. I think this game's over in the second quarter.
I agree. I think the Browns are going to blow them out. And to your point about playing glass, you're basically pulling a page on Michael Strahan's book during his last season with New York at the age of 36 when he led the Giants, with Tyree and Eli Manning to the Super Bowl. So I can definitely see that.
Michael
All right,
Strahan said it. Yeah, he said the same thing.
he did. He said that. He said if I'm going to come back and play, I'm not going to training camp.
People talk about it all the time, but dude, we're not. Dude, we've been playing this game since we were 4 years old, man. And I'm not. No, I don't need. Look, I got the fundamentals down. I got that part down. I got the work regimen down. I don't need to worry about two-stepping nothing. Put the rock in my hand and that happens. You know what I'm saying? That's all you got to worry about. All I got to do is stay in shape, stay strong, keep it moving.
All right, we got 5 minutes. Let's run through these picks. All right, I'm gonna start with the week ones, and then we'll get to the two marquee matchups I'm targeting. So, Titans at Texans. I'm gonna go with Tennessee.
Tennessee.
CJ Stroud being out. Uh, Falcons at Bears. I don't even care who wins this game because they're both kind of in the rebuild
Chicago's going to
mode.
blow them out.
Okay,
Game.
Chicago gonna blow them out. I think it's gonna be a close game because of Bijan Robinson.
Is it
NFL
in
offensive player of the
Chicago
year.
or is it in Atlanta?
It's in Chicago. So
Oh, Atlanta doesn't stand a chance to Chicago. They never
yeah,
have.
absolutely. Yeah, no, yeah. I guess the
Yeah.
Bears will win. Saints at
Yeah, they
Bucks.
they they haven't been able to stand a chance to Chicago since the big days, and even then, go back and look at those games. Chicago blew them out then too.
100%. Saints at Bucks. I got the Bucks, obviously.
Bucks,
Yeah, Patriots at Bills. I got the Bills.
Bills,
Cardinals at Eagles. I want the Cardinals, but probably gonna go the
Eagles,
Eagles. Yep. Panthers at Jags. Jags.
Jags,
Yes, sir. Raiders at Colts. Colts.
Raiders.
Yeah, Raiders. Yep. Rams at Giants. I want to go on a limb. I'm gonna pick the G-men.
I'm
I'm gonna
picking the
pick the.
Giants too.
Yeah. It might be. I'm gonna pick them, and the Rams are a little bit banged up, so I got
I'm
them.
picking. Hey,
Yeah, Tommy, baby. Tommy Cutlets.
I'm going
Gotta
with
love
Tommy
it.
Cutlets.
Yes, sir. Niners at Commanders. We got Niners.
Niners
Steelers.
blowout.
Steelers. Yep. Steelers at Seahawks. Super Bowl 40 rematch. Ooh, Lofa might be watching this. Okay, let's. I mean, damn, that's a good one actually.
What's up, Lofa? Miss you, bro.
Yeah, I miss you too, brother. Yeah, hope you're watching, listening. I know you like my post recently on Niners, but and I mean, I know Lofa doesn't like Niners, but I mean, whatever. All right, Steelers Seahawks. Basically, I shit. It's at Seattle. I'm gonna go Seattle. I'm gonna go Lofa Seahawks to continue
I'm going
their playoff win.
Seattle, bro. I'm going Seattle.
Bengals at Chiefs. Ooh, this one's interesting. Both teams are starting.
Okay. Which Browning are we gonna get?
Yeah, exactly. That's the question.
We can
So
talk about that one for a second. If we get the Jake Browning that thinks he's Tom Brady, then the Bengals are gonna win. I
yeah,
think there's too much dysfunction in Kansas City right now, and I think that they might not get that straight. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised to see them at 8-7 next week.
100%. I'm gonna go with the Bengals too on pull off the upset. Chargers at Broncos. I don't even care. I mean, the Russell Wilson game bench. I don't even want to get into that. It's so messy. It's all financial.
It's messy. It's financial. It's not about Russell's play. Russell's playing a good season, especially the second half of the season.
Yes, and it's Sean Payton saying that. Oh yeah, like I know I can't change offensive linemen, but we need a spark. But really, it's the
Dude,
Wall family.
you're almost in the playoffs, Sean Payton. What are you doing?
Yeah, it's really the Wall family just saying, hey, yeah, we don't want to pay this guy next year. Just go ahead and do what you gotta do. We're paying you 18 mil. We're going with the coach. We're not going with the quarterback. But I mean, and Russell good. I mean, for him, to his benefit, he'll still get $39 million next year, even if he's not on the roster. So good for him. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. I think Broncos will win.
Do we see
Uh,
Russell Wilson in Vegas next year?
oh my gosh, that would be nice. But yeah, I mean, the question is, does Russell want to compete and go through the grind at the age 35 because he has so much?
Yes.
Okay, if he does, then yes, we will see him in Vegas. We'll see him anywhere. But the question is, will he be able to beat out Aiden O'Connell? I think he can. But the first take of talking head said that he doesn't want to go through the grind. So, but I mean, I think he will. Lastly, Packers at Vikings. I'm gonna go with the Packers because the Vikings have been kind of reeling a bit. Nick
Or do you
Foles.
see Russell in Minnesota if he doesn't if he doesn't resign? If
I
Kirk
mean,
doesn't resign?
yeah, maybe that's another opportunity landing spot for Russell. We'll cover that in our episode in the interest of time. I want to get through these two marquee matchups now. Detroit Lions at Dallas and Miami at Baltimore.
It's at Dallas.
It's at Dallas.
Dallas will win by 3.
Okay, yeah, oh my gosh, I hope Dallas wins. That's gonna help.
It's at Dallas. Dallas doesn't lose at home.
Yes, sir.
They've
And then
lost 2 weeks in a row. They're not gonna lose at home.
yes, sir. And then lastly, Miami at Baltimore.
I can't call it.
Yeah, I hope Miami, but
They're
Baltimore, I
in
hope.
Baltimore, right?
Yeah, and Miami hasn't beaten the team over
Uh,
500.
Baltimore's gonna win that game.
Yep, Baltimore's going to win that game, unfortunately. So, anyway, that's going to wrap up our picks and our episode for today. Thank you all for tuning in. Hope you guys, follow us at DDOG Podcast, on Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, as well as YouTube. Cortez Branch Soul Reaper 24 on IG, as well as Twitter. You all know me. So, anyways, anything else you want to close out with, my brother?
Hey, you guys, stay safe this holiday season, and I don't want the last thing you ever watch to be our show at the end of the year. I want please come back strong and safe, and join us for a revolutionary year of 24. So shout out to all the 24s that have appeared on this show.
Hey, Booby, I know you listening.
Shout out to the 24s that have appeared on the show, especially if they're running backs. So uh thanks to the greatest host, Mr. Ali over here. Thank you to the greatest host, and a really close friend of mine. And I want to wish you and your family, a very successful end of the year and a very successful year of 24 as well. And I'm grateful that we're able to do this. And next year, I'm sure we got some other stuff, in mind and planned. And I think it's going to be fun for everyone.
Yes, sir. We're getting to the start playoffs. So thank you again once again, everyone tuning in. Thank you, my co-host, and we'll see you guys at 24. God bless.